we are back. We are due to some technical difficulties with Facebook Live. Anne and I, this is Anne Green, everyone, my incredible strength recovery friend of all things that we do, and at Element Sports Coaching, and new to be named Tennille Hoogland Applied Athletics. What? I know, right? So fun. In any case, Anne and I are coming back here. It is Sunday morning as we record this, and because we really do have a couple of things that we want to share with you in strength, and we just couldn't let another day go by to make happen. So, Anne, thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining and sharing your genius. And what we're going to talk about is, in really brief, but I think really important about, is what is strength? What is power? What is strength endurance? And, one of the really key points is, how do we look at strength holistically in our body? I think that's all I'm going to say, because you're going to take it from here.
Okay.
Okay, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, first of all the ways that you just described it is all strength, but the purest form of strength is actually the ability to move. So that's your force, right? So pure strength is force. Then how we do that with timing and, again, the ability to move it over time and with how much becomes power. What we want to reside in is being a force. Isn't that a lovely thing? Oh. Be a force of nature, right? We want to be there. We want to be that kind of being. And I want to say this right now before I forget. In order to improve your own force and your own strength, it comes from grip. Okay. That's a really important part of our vitality, of our measure of longevity. Actually, it's a really good test of that. And so if you need to use anything to improve your grip, go ahead. Over time, that's also going to continue to improve your grip too. So if you need like the wraps for around the bar, if you need some handle gloves kind of thing, it's okay. Anything to improve your grip is improving your own personal ability to move or be forceful, which is awesome. So strength purely is about force. Then, because we add some ability of speed to it, that's where velocity comes into play. And then we put velocity and force together over time. That's also power, right? Which is great. And then how much time determines the endurance of strength, which is important. So the answer is that strength is all of those things, but purely in the science of looking at it, it is directly related to force. Strength is force. So be a force. Be a force of nature. Yeah.
All right.
So, right, the sense that fundamental practice or principle exercise here is that we need to put strain on our body and recover from that stress exercise. Mm-hmm. And that's how we get stronger.
Yeah. Point. Punto. Okay. Punto. Number 1 point, everybody. Okay. So we stress our body with mm-hmm. force. Because we're talking here, we're really coming into the training element of, mindset, nutrition, training, and recovery. We could talk ad nauseum, but we're going to stay focused now. So my question for you is this idea of lifting heavy, and mm-hmm. because that is ultimately force in action. So while we have power as we lift a bar, there is power bringing up or power coming, if we do tempo or something, we're always in the conversation of movement, right? Mm-hmm. But the most important thing about lifting heavy is low reps. This is what we know, because then we can stay as in there, in the strength and the force piece of it.
Yeah.
The thing, just so 1 sec. So the thing that I'm super interested in is sometimes it's really hard. Like what you have us doing is super amazing, because I'm mm-hmm. seeing strength come in such a different way. I would think that a lot of us, when we think of doing our lifting heavy, think of bilateral. So everything like a squat, both legs on the ground, equal weight, ready to go, down, up. Okay, now I've got my strength. Now, the challenge is, no, Anne is not happy with that. Anne wants me to now do a curtsy squat, like, or have some sort of unilateral things. And so I want you to come and really get specific about understanding that strength is the weakest, like we're building strength at the weakest part of the chain.
Okay, perfect. So what you're getting also into is the amount of strain placed on the body through a loading parameter. Okay, so that's really important to understand. And this specific loading management is very important for people that are especially only working in certain, for lack of a better term right now, that is understandable by all. We're always working in specific kinetic chains when we're running, when we're biking, and when we're swimming. There's very little variance of using transverse chains, and there's so much about using just the dorsal for support and the front for movement. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is switch that up a little bit, get to you at the part of the place of your being that is not experiencing torsion, torque, tension in a way of movement of force that is naturally occurring in all the other events that we're training for. So it's very important that I have to do things sometimes unilaterally, come back to understand it bilaterally, come back to understand a transverse movement from left to right, right to left, forward, back, side to side. So it's just a magnificent change for the kind of movement that our bodies generally do all the time. There is nothing wrong with bilateral strength training processes. Yeah. And in fact, people should get very bored of doing squats and still do squats and still do deadlifts in the very traditional style. We don't want to take away from that. But basically what I'm trying to do is be able to train your force harder by pushing yourself to the limit. And where our concept of understanding changes is unilateral concept of muscular development over a change, right? So we need to quantify our physical activity. I've got some notes at the side here because I didn't want to miss what I was saying, so that you can train through different modality. Right? So that your being that is doing the same running, the same cycling, the same swimming has a different modality when it's understanding force to keep you strong, to keep you as injurious free as possible. And it should be really, really an impactful training load that becomes extremely hard to move, because it's also a really hard movement pattern.
Well, and this is what's so interesting about my own experience of it is that, I'm as competitive as anybody. And so,
no.
and now competitive, I know, right? So competitive myself. And it's just like, oh, I was getting up to this beautiful weight in which I was lifting heavy. I was super stoked, like bilateral movement. Right. And then I was just like, I'm back down to, my 10 pounds of like trying to do this, and it's not enough. And then but then in the understanding, and then in the work that we do together, Anne has been really helping me understand. It's like, okay, well, it's not about that, Tennille. It's actually about all the things you just said. So yeah. What I'm saying is we need to release ourselves. At least I needed to release myself. And maybe works for others that are listening to this. Release yourself from the number of what you're doing and really coming into the intention of like, what is the complexity of this movement? And how is it that when I'm doing a bit of a balance and I'm doing a bit of a press at the same time and all these things, and that is lifting heavy too, even though it might be a 5-pound dumbbell going
no, so what if I could summarize that really nicely, my words that I made sure, because I wanted to be specific and elegant, so I'm prepared. Like everything with all my athletes, I'm prepared for this conversation with you as well. I think what I'm trying to show you here, basically the ultimate goal, the reality, the opportunity here is that we want scientific load management strategies at every level and load and stage of our training. So I'm being scientifically specific with your load management because of how people do and do not move. That's why the training load parameter is it's not the number. It's how am I managing the movement of this force?
Yeah. It's brilliant. I also want to really just say there's one thing that you put in there that I think is important. So the athletes that we train together are cyclists, they're runners, they're swimmers. Sometimes they're, swimming as a cross training to their primary sport, or they're triathletes. And so they are in training programs. A lot of our athletes are looking to just actually stay fit. They don't have an end goal in mind. They don't have the race that they're after. They don't have these big events that they're really care about anymore. They're after, I want to feel good in my body, but I want to do it in a way of sport. And I think that this is what becomes really unique about what you're creating. And you keep mentioning the word load, and there's this nuance that really needs to happen, in which you're totally attuned to, of if we were just doing a pure personal training, like if we were just doing and I don't want to say just, that's a totally wrong word. If our focus and intention was on personal training and gym work, more traditional gym with strict, getting HIIT training, and we're going to do sprint interval training, then I would imagine you would create something different. But your main thing is like, how do we as endurance athletes, or people that like sport, that like do way more than what health actually requires? Like, I'm sorry, we're not normal people. We want to go out and do intervals of something that's hard work. We want to do the long rides because it fills our soul. It fills and I'll just say this one more thing and then I'll be quiet. But, and it's also progressive. Our athletes are coming into a level of, some of them start from they've all had athletic backgrounds. Some of them are re-engaging with that athletic self of theirs. And no matter where you start, it's progressive. But what you're creating and what you're attuned to is this absolute, like, how do we do this load? How do we constantly think of extending out from our body, because we all are like this, right?
Right. So if I could look at it, I'm taking something that's doing this and I'm asking it to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mobius, transverse, the concept of interconnected, really, 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 really important, comes to the core all the time, and understands that we're going to be very proximal or close to us strong. Soon as you start to move that away from your body, that exponentially changes your availability to manage that load. So your force management, your strength management has to equally be supported by your load management, right? And I want you to be able to have a strong core, have a strong body, be able to keep going with it, with as heavy a weight as possible, moving that load away from you. So we'll get back to just this one particular concept. I'm getting you to do bell presses while you're curtsying. Yeah. To the, not the ultimate depth of your squat ability, but to a very solid, strong squat while you're moving this heavy weight away from your body. Of course, you're not going to be holding 50-pound bells right now. That's just not there yet, right? That's just not there yet. Yeah. It's going to continue. So load parameter is very important because of the different levels of the fascia connection, the muscular connection, the articulations. I want to have clear, non-injurious, pure strength. I want to have strength that moves people in a right and good and efficient place and state, and watches those things that you're not doing. You're not being transverse. You're not being interconnected. You're not having a lot of Mobius work in your body when we're doing these lifelong, beautiful activities that keeps us lifelong active, being very athletic. These are some, people are going to be on their bike for as long as they can be. They're going to be in the pool for as long as they can be. There might be over time a little less jarring because of the body going through running, but I hope people will run as long as they can run. I want them moving fastly, quickly, hiking, walking as well. You know, all of these lifelong amazing activities, as strong as possible, comes from being able to move force and be a force.
And I think that's the perfect spot to end, is like, this is, I love what you've been doing with all of us.
Thank you.
And I can't thank you enough. And we're going to bring you in a lot more into our Athletes Thriving and sharing, and now into our YouTube to, you know, as we push it out and push these conversations out into the bigger world. So
yay!
And we love you, and to everybody, be the force. You are
the force.
Take care.
Yes.
Bye.
Thanks.